Hey everyone, I'm still incredibly sick and feel terrible, so this should be fun. I still want to talk about young adult literature, and I'm going to continue to respond to Ruth Graham's article, which is what I did yesterday. It posits that adults should be embarrassed to read young adult literature. So if you haven't seen my video that I made yesterday on this topic, just click my face, this thing, and it'll take you right there so you can watch the video first. Graham focuses her argument on the idea that adults should be seeking out a higher form of literature, a higher level of literature. Adults should be reading works which are more serious and complex than young adult literature can possibly provide. By reading these complex and serious works, you will get a special reward which you just don't get when reading an adult literature. I disagree with this a lot. For one thing, young adult literature encompasses a huge amount of books. It contains several subgenres: realistic fiction, non-fiction, fantasy, sci-fi. Young adult literature literally encompasses every single genre and writes it at level for high school and college students. And I found these books to be as rewarding, as complex, as ambiguous, and as ironic. And it basically does the same thing as adult literature. It does everything that adult literature does in a very good way. It is basically the same way. It can contain ambiguity and complexity, endings that are unsatisfying. But since Graham's article focused on real books, she dismissed a whole genre and all of its subgenres for realistic fiction. And she limits herself in reaching such great literature because she doesn't think it can possibly be good. She writes like reading is a means to an end. And for me, that's not true. Reading is the end. She writes that there's a special reward in adult literature that brings something greater than the book can to the reader. I think all literature does this to those who are thoughtful, but that's not why I read. I think there's a reward in reading books, but that's not why I read. I don't read to be stretched. I don't read to push my own boundaries. I don't read as an intellectual pursuit or to better myself. I read because I'm miserable when I'm not reading. I read because I love reading. I read because I love being up at 4 in the morning, stuck in a good narrative with amazing and complex characters that I kind of wish were my friends, or that I wish were here in real life so I could punch them in the face. And sometimes I'm stretched. Sometimes I learn. Sometimes I end up pushing myself to understand what I'm reading. But that's not why I read. At best, that's an occasional side effect. In that reading and in those side effects, though, it's not brought on by works that are more complex and ambiguous and ironic instead of those that are simple and clear. They both do the same thing for me, even if they're not written at the same level. Maybe I'll just continue growing up to be a different kind of adult than Graham, because I'm almost 20, I'm not fully grown, and I still fit the demographic for young adult literature. So maybe as I grow up, I'll leave young adult literature behind, but maybe I won't. Maybe I'll just continue being a different kind of reader than Graham. One that doesn't condescend or shame people for loving what they love. One that doesn't promote self-loathing in literature. If there is anything I've learned from reading young adult literature, it's that differences should be celebrated and not shamed. It's that diversity is an amazing and great thing and that it helps people to understand each other. But maybe that's too simple of an idea for those who only read adult literature.